Hello, this is Douglas Robinson with Def Edit Software LLC, and in this video we're covering the version 3 update of our License User Management map. And in this update we've added a couple of interesting features. Just to go over what was in here before, previously we had updated in version 2 the option to choose either display names or Windows login IDs when importing a batch of user accounts into the system. In version 3, in addition to being able to import a batch of display names or Windows login IDs, where originally we'd let you import just a CSV or a comma-separated list, now we've given you the option to just delimit by line breaks. So whether you're importing with display names, Windows login IDs, which are SAM account names in your customer records, either way, you can now also choose whether you want to import by separating the items in your list out with commas, or by choosing to delimit them just by each individual line. So if somebody sends you an email with a list of 10 different people that need to be added to your Cherwell system, ideally you'd be able to copy and paste that list in here and import those users, assuming the names matched up. And if not, you'd see the records actually parsed down at the bottom with a missing SAM account name. So as an example of that, I'm going to change Tracy Aubyn's middle name and click parse, and you'll notice Tyrell Zweck was parsed in here, but Tracy Aubyn was not because her name didn't match. And if we look through our list of customers here, we can find her, and we notice the name's slightly different. When we select that, it does actually populate her SAM account name, which means a match has been found, and she will be updated in the system with a new user account when we run our import. But aside from that, the other updates we've added are a LDAP domain field. The reason for this is when we create these user accounts, we're not actually populating a domain into the customer record. Instead, we're just populating the SAM account name for those users. So this LDAP domain field, what it's going to do is if you enter a value here, it's going to prefix that SAM account name, and it's going to add a // I think here I wrote it was a \\, but it's going to add a / for our domain. So once you have this set up, once you've selected a display name or a Windows login ID for your input method, you've chosen how you're going to delimit your items in the list off on the right, you've selected a domain name, you've chosen a security group for the users to be created into, and you've entered the list of users that you want to use, all you have to do is click on parse, and if we clear this out, we'll notice it does actually parse them out. Of course, the names have to match, so if they don't, you'll see the SAM account name field be empty. And then after that's done, you can click on import. You can also manually select users to import into the system. So we can choose Bruce Robertson, we can choose Curtis Parker, you can choose a couple of other users and import them as Active Directory, or import them as licensed users into the system. And I'm going to save this record and click on import. We'll get a pop-up letting us know that the user import's finished. When we go back into our Edit Users dialog and we open up the Windows IDs section, we can see that each of these users that we have selected has been created. You'll notice they were given the test domain that I had entered into my LDAP domain field, and the rest of their details have populated onto the form as well. That is the majority of the updates that we've made in this version of the Licensed User Management update. If you'd like to follow along and see how we built this update, watch the rest of this video. Otherwise, it was nice seeing you, and subscribe if you'd like to see our other videos. But the rest of this video is going to be covering how we actually updated this and how we're parsing the display names. How we're parsing those names out of that set of line breaks instead of just CSVs. So we actually just released a map onto the Map Exchange on how we can parse XML values out of a list of line breaks. And that map, once you've installed it, it has a one-step that's labeled Parse Line Breaks to XML. It's under the None Association. It's in your global folder. And we released a video on this one as well, where essentially we just take our list of values for our line breaks and we escape them out using a encode text modifier, which you can see on the screen here. We convert them to XML by replacing the encoded text with XML attributes, and from there we just output it to a stored value, which our one step under our user account import actions or business object will use. So here's the one step that we're using to actually import those users. That's the wrong one step. We're really looking for our parse names from list one step. So here we have a one step, and the first action in here it existed before. It was for updating a security group ID for the import. We've added a decide between multiple cases step right here. Previously there was a separate decide between multiple cases for choosing whether or not we were going to step through user IDs or display names, but we've added onto this for a set of actions that are going to execute based on whether or not we are using CSVs or line breaks for our delimiting text. So that's what our condition is here. If it's a CSV, then we're going to use the default action that was here before, which is to convert the CSV data into an XML collection. So you'll see here it had the start elements for an XML collection, and then the comma separated list values, where we replaced the commas with the XML elements necessary to convert it into a list, and then we ended that collection at the end of this with static text. But if we're using our line breaks as a delimiter, then what we're doing is we're filling out our stored value for input with line breaks, which you can learn more about in our video on that line breaks to XML parser map that we've created. And then we're sending that data, or after we've sent that data to that stored value, we're running this one step that's labeled parse line breaks as XML, and then we're retrieving the output from that using a stored value that's labeled output line breaks as XML. We're setting that into a user account list variable, which is also used here, and what we're doing is we're translating the values from the list that's created from our generic parse line breaks as XML. That returns a very, very generic XML collection here, where we have a line and then an item and then the actual value from that line. But this is the XML collection, these are the elements and the tag names that are used there. And what we're doing here is we're replacing those with the XML element tags, or the names for those elements that are used in this one step. And after that, we go down to our original one-step actions, where we're stepping through either the list of user IDs or display names, and the rest of the one step is the same. So essentially all we're modifying in this update is adding the ability to step through I keep saying display names, adding the option to delimit using line breaks instead of just CSVs, which is going to be a powerful tool here in the future. And then the other update we've made covering the LDAP domain, if we go into the one step that's used to create a user account, we've added a prompt for a domain if one isn't entered on that field, because that one step does actually pass a domain into a stored value. And if that value is empty, it's going to prompt a user for a domain using a text prompt. It's just going to be an unvalidated text prompt. And then when we go to create these user accounts under the Trebuchet auth table, you'll notice when we set the Windows identifier, we have a custom expression where you can choose, this isn't actually evaluating correctly on my screen, I think, because this was actually created on version 9.1.1 and I'm on version 9.3.0, which is my test system. So you may notice an issue with the actual operator and value displaying when you open this up. You should be able to correct that by clearing this out and selecting something else and then setting it back. I'm not used to this view. Give me one moment. Anyways, this is how this one was set up. You don't have to make any changes to it. It's just not displaying correctly due to a difference in the version that we developed this on and the version that we're testing it on in our video. But if the LDAP domain is non-empty, then what we're setting at this point is the LDAP domain for import, that stored value, plus a /. And then after that, we're just doing our standard SAM account name value so that we set in the domain and that user account value. And the reason we're doing that is essentially previously on the version 1 and version 2 of this map, it would actually create user accounts, but it would use your default domain. So if you had many different domains, or if for some reason it wasn't assuming that default domain correctly, the user may not have been able to sign in. So with this update, your users should be able to sign in correctly, assuming you've entered the right domain for them when you've batch imported their user accounts. If you have any questions about this map, feel free to reach out to us either through our YouTube channel or through our website. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.